I'm in this room with light, and it was so bright. It filled up the whole room. I was just wanted to touch it. I just wanted to grab it, and I couldn't grab it, but it enveloped me. And I realized it's daylight. And I'm like, how did I go from the floor to the bed, and how is it morning? I don't remember. God wraps himself in unapproachable light. The moment I read that passage, the Spirit of God I just sensed hit me saying, not only do I speak to you, just hadn't learned yet what it means to listen, right? But I'm showing up. I am here.
Right.
So I knew in that moment that I had a visit from God. And I started looking at people, hurry up, carrying their kids. You know, you see angry people, frustrated people, people that are in pain, you know, all these different emotions. But every time I would look at a person, it's like they were transfigured. They were the most beautiful beings. I mean, they're humans, right, that I've ever seen in my life. Just everybody was so beautiful. And no matter what their demeanor was, when we would make eye contact, they would smile, right? It would change, like they were being transfigured. And I'm like, what in the heck was that? What was this? You know, I knew it was like a vision moment. Then as I was praying to God, he said, I let you see people how I see people.
What?
I will never, ever forget that.
Welcome back to the battlefield. Today we have Sasha Bergstrasser, and she's going to share her spiritual experiences with us. You grew up kind of in the church?
Yeah, off and on. This like little shack on a river, very rural Louisiana, Pentecostal, jumping, shouting, you know, people are falling out, you know, crazy stuff. And I remember asking if anybody wanted to go up for prayer. And, you know, I'm like this little kid, I'm like, why not, right? So my cousin and I, we went up and filled with the Spirit, spoke other tongues. I had no idea what it was, what was happening, you know, but it was a real experience that I'll always remember.
How did it feel?
You know, of course, then I didn't know what feeling intoxicated felt like. I wasn't drinking it that not too far after that, but I wasn't, you know, doing anything at that point. It was a moment where your senses are enhanced and this feeling of bliss. Now that I'm an adult and you hear that about being drunk in the Spirit, right, that you understand it because it is that feeling.
Around? Why do they lay on the ground?
Physically in your body, and it's a feeling that the rest of the world kind of drowns out for those moments.
And singing, drunk in the Spirit again.
So a divine moment, even at a young age, you know, and it was something very unique. But went through most of that childhood with emotional, sexual, and physical abuse. So that in turn led to just a road of drugs and addiction to cover pain. But that moment was real. Do you see what I'm saying? It was, I know the presence of God was in that moment. And, you know, I did all kinds of drugs. Out of all those, you know, LSD moments and all these ecstasy, you know, heightened, pleasurable moments that you have on those drugs. But there's always these bad consequences where when you're in the presence of God and you're experiencing these moments. I love nature and I love sunsets and I love water and stuff like that. But other people may have other things. Like, you can include God in anything. And it's just this natural high that nothing compares. And it's free. There's no hangover. There's no, there's no, you didn't go broke. You didn't, you know, hurt somebody. You didn't hurt yourself.
So God waking you up is...
Oh, when I was younger, there was no seat belts, no car seats. You just pack everybody in, whoever can fit in the car, right? And I was the youngest, so I would always go in the hatchback. So we went somewhere, I'm thinking it might have been church. When we came home, well, I had fallen asleep in the back hatchback. This is deep South Louisiana, like near New Orleans, Baton Rouge. It was hot.
It's burning up in New Orleans.
And I fell asleep and nobody remembered that I was back there.
It's about 105.
Or they forgot. You know, now we have these little things, which is sad, on our car that says, check your back seat. Is anyone in the back seat? It's sad. Like, we forget our
Wow,
children.
it
You know,
says
you hear
that?
these horror stories. Yes, these brand new cars because of these people leaving their babies in car seats and forgetting about them 10, 15 minutes. And, you know, it only takes, I think, 15 minutes to reach over 200 degrees in a car. So I know it was God waking me up. And I was drenched, you know, because it was closed in and it was hot. And, you know, I was a little girl. I could have died, basically, I guess is what I'm saying. And so I know, I look at it now and I know God woke me up. So, and what a horrible thought that my mom would have experienced, right?
It was God, because you know, it's what's the verse? Every good and perfect thing comes from God.
That's right.
So you're Chelsea?
Yeah. She is my daughter, my oldest. I knew if I kept at that pace that I was at, I was gonna die. I said, God, I need to settle down. And I remember saying, I need to get married. I need to start a family, you know, and I was young, but I knew if I kept at that pace, at 19 at the time, that was it. Well, I got a husband, I met somebody, I knew him for 6 weeks. He was in the Navy, met him on the beach, married, and then like a month or two later, got pregnant, right? I remember praying over my stomach and saying, because I'm thinking of all the drugs I had put in my body, right? And I'm like, God, please just let this baby have, you know, 10 fingers, 10 toes, chromosomes, all, you know, because all this matters, what you've done to your body, right? So I was scared. So then that started like that conversation back with God, you know, again. And she's normal. She has one little web toe, which is kind of funny, right? One little web toe that didn't separate totally.
Oh,
So
wow.
I just caught a little duck foot.
All right, yeah, the deliverance of smoking.
Oh, yeah. When I prayed over my stomach, the prayer I prayed, I made an oath. This is big. And I said, God, if you let my baby be normal, I promise I'll give up all the hard stuff. Okay? I didn't say everything, right? So I still smoked pot and I still smoked cigarettes because that was just normal stuff,
Yeah.
right? I knew, I was like, I need to quit smoking. And something kept pressing on me. Call this pastor of this church. There's a church called The River, Tampa Bay, and Rodney and Adonica Howard Brown, his father also had a ministry, and I knew I was supposed to call and he was gonna pray for me. I just knew it. So I kept calling the church offices and finally got him on the phone. And he did. He just prayed over the phone a prayer of deliverance. And I knew immediately it was gone. I had no desire for a cigarette, nothing at all. For a few weeks, right? Then I started going through something in my life, right? I started getting tempted, and I got some, they were sitting there. I could feel the Spirit of God saying, don't do it, Sasha, do not pick it up. And I fought it. I fought it for a minute, but sure enough, I put that thing in my mouth and I lit it. The moment I lit it and took that first drag, I was like, there I was, back in bondage again.
Yeah.
The next time, a few weeks later, I knew I had to give it up. And it was one of the hardest things I ever had to give up. And it was a fight. So looking at the comparing, now I had to put in the work. That was a gift that God used through somebody else of deliverance. And it was perfect. And I got to experience that and see the difference. And it wasn't, I don't feel like God was saying, oh, now you rebelled, that's it, you know. But I had consequences, right? And I'm learning to rely on His fulfillment, right? I don't need, like I prayed for the husband, and I put so many expectations on him to fulfill all the void and all the pain and all the hurt in my life that he wasn't meant to carry. And that's a lot to put on a person. And we do that in relationships.
Yeah, I tell men that don't believe it's too much. The whole family gets all put on the man. That is way too much. The true father of the whole relationship has to be God. I mean, He can handle it. It takes all the pressure off of you. Just let Him have it. You just gotta let go. It's this pride.
And control. And not being vulnerable.
All right, so what's the gift, faith at a hospital?
I was literally, had just smoked some pot. I was high, right? I was at my mom's and I went to church with her like the day or two before, and I remember they had announced that one of the elders' brothers was in ICU, right, in this church service. I didn't know these people at all, right? It was like late one night, I was sitting in her apartment, And it just kept coming to me. You need to go pray for this man's brother in the hospital. And I'm thinking, what? You know, I'm hearing this and I'm high. I'm like, oh yeah, God, I'm going to go pray high, right? You know, it would not leave me alone. Now, not like in a bad way, but just like this, you gotta go, you gotta go. Well, my mom had no gas in her car. I had no money. I had no job at the time. I had to drive from like Hillsborough Avenue all the way to Tampa General, which is South Tampa, on like fumes, gas. And I had no money for parking. So I'm having all this, and my mom, you know, the woman of faith at the time she's like, if that's what you're doing, you gotta go. Just go, right? Just go. So I did just going, I'm thinking, don't break down, car, you just make it there. So I get there, and then I'm thinking, what am I going to tell these people? I know the guy's name, like I don't even know him. I don't even know the brother, right?
Yeah.
I just know he's an elder at a church. Yeah. So I go in and I'm like, whoa, and it's like, you have to pay for parking. And I'm thinking, oh crap. So I go through emergency, and I'm telling this first nurse that, and they're like looking at me like, I'm supposed to pray for this man. He's in ICU, and they're like, well, only family can. I'm like, I understand that. I'm like, but I'm just was very adamant, persistent. And I was like, is there any way I can get a parking pass, right? Finally, I get a parking pass. I run out to go get it, bring it back. And I had already went through this whole spew, breaking down this one nurse. I get back, it's a new person. I'm like, are you kidding me? And so I had to go through the whole spew again. And I'm thinking, all right. And I'm thinking to myself, was I really supposed to come, or was I just high? Was I really supposed to come pray for this guy? So then they're like, you're not family. The best thing I can tell you is to go through the hospital entrance and see if maybe some family members are there and if they're willing to let you in. And I'm thinking, okay, I have to run outside around to the hospital entrance. They won't let me in. So I'm like, I ran back around and I come back and I go back up and the door's open and it's the elder brother come out. And I was like, you know, I caught him off guard, but I'm like, I'm supposed to pray for your brother, you know, so had I not had to run, the timing was perfect, right? So then I'm thinking, now I'm in, what am I going to do? So then I'm standing there, and they only let like one at a time, because he's like septic, he's dying, he's not even conscious, he's in ICU, so I'm thinking, what am I even going to pray for? So each family goes at a time, and I just waited, I'm like, and then they're all finished, they're like, you can go in now. So then I'm like, what am I doing, you know? So I just like put my hand on him, and then I started praying in the spirit. I had no idea
you don't know what
I was praying. Nope, no idea whatsoever. And then the next thing I know, the nurse comes in and she's like, okay, time's up. And I was like, okay. And that was it. I mean, and he came out of it, but I still to this day never met the man. Didn't, but that was very unique. Like, there was no way that I was gonna not go. It's not like I always have that feeling like I gotta go do something for, you know, but when those happen, I feel like God's being very intentional and he wants us to do something. And it could be something as simple as saying hello to somebody, you know, picking up something for them, carrying a grocery. I mean, it could be something so simple. It doesn't have to be, but I wanted to bring that up because I was high and God used me.
Right.
So I don't want people to feel like, oh, I gotta clean up first. I gotta, you know, before I can come into the presence or God to be used by God. No, that's, you just come as you are. It's basically one thing that teaches me is it's not about me. I was just a willing vessel.
Right.
It's about his power in me. I mean, that was a miracle, and I got to literally touch him.
I don't know many people who would keep going after all those things
well,
that
what
kept
I'm
happening.
That's what I'm saying. I would have given up. Like, at that
probably
point.
99% would be like, okay, no.
You're crazy.
That was a crazy thought. Or I'll just go home.
Let me go eat some food. Yeah. Back
with
in
the
that
munchies.
day. Right, that's what I'm saying. I tell people now that I know what it's like to live life without God, and I know what it's like to live life with God. And there's no comparison. He makes the good times even better and the hard times easier.
Yeah.
If I were to say it in a simple form.
That's why I think God did it the way he did with me. I was lost, didn't know God was a thing. But then when I found out, it's like, there is no way in a million years I would go back to living without God.
There's no comparison.
Yeah, death or life. Every day was just a nightmare.
And I think the problem, like when I look back, from 8 through the years, and then, the big philosophical question is, why does God let bad things happen to good people, right? Because, I played my squeaky violin. Good, I was victim. Oh, I can't tell you. And I still catch myself moments pulling that victim card out. I'm like, nope, nothing that needs to come out of my mouth except the truth of what God says about me and other people, right?
Yeah.
That's what I think happens to us, all our brokenness and stuff, if we stay there, right? If we don't turn toward God and let Him heal us, then we are that victim forever. And not only do we do that, we suck people into our world and pull them down, right? And it's a vicious cycle.
One thing I tell people, it's the fruit of the Spirit, all the 9 of them. If what's coming out of your mouth doesn't fit under that category, don't say it.
That's right. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. Like,
I mean, that's the saying.
Life and death are in the power of the tongue, I think James tells us. Sets spark like a fire.
Steering the Titanic with this little tiny thing, your tongue is guiding
That's right.
your entire life, which direction it's going.
And you think about in the creation story in Genesis where it says God spoke things into creation. So when you just meditate on that for a minute, you'd be very careful what comes out of your mouth. You may realize the power in your words, right?
Yeah. And they say it with an atom, you get down to the electron, and then you get down to the electrons made of quarks, which are then made out of basically vibrations.
That's right.
And just like the string on a violin, I pluck it and it vibrates, creates a little musical note that I can hear. The little strings in string theory, when they vibrate, they don't produce musical notes, they produce the particles themselves.
It's the spoken word of God, like vibrating. Everything is all
That's
God.
right. And what is Christ? He is the Word. And that's our battlefield, right? Ephesians 6 tells about the weapons of our warfare. The battlefield is in the mind. And we have stored memories that go from when we're in our mother's womb. They are there, they're ingrained. And until we pull in the Word of God and we start believing what God says to cover up those wounds, because they're wounds here.
Yeah.
We have a plethora of voices coming at us from every direction in this world that are so contrary. So we constantly have to take those thoughts captive. Because I can't control half of what's out here, but what I can control is how I respond and to see, why am I reacting the way I am?
I've always been interested in the spiritual and acid experiences that were more than just what's here. If it's just what I can see, that's not good enough.
That's why we're so fascinated with Walking Dead and,
Yeah.
all the... We are going to live forever. Scripture talks about when you're cast away from God, there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. I think about that thought. I don't know about you, but like, if I can't find my keys or so, like I'm in a hurry, or, everything's, I've spilled my coffee, just everything is falling apart all at once. You're like, you literally are gnashing your teeth,
Yeah.
right? In frustration. Can you imagine an eternity like that?
Yeah.
No, thank you.
I mean, I can, because
Well,
it happened
right.
to me, and I definitely don't want that
That's
ever
right.
again. I was just thinking about that the other night, just like, thank you, Lord, for
So the peace.
Yeah.
Peace of God. It says transcends all understanding. It doesn't make sense. You should be in frantic mode and angry and frustrated. It's like a blanket. It's like that when I used to smoke, to just sedate me and to just calm. That's what Holy Spirit does.
Yeah.
No drug, just the Spirit of God.
Blinding light.
Another point in my life where I was separated with my little one, living with family. But life was hard at that time. And I remember I'd hear people all the time saying, well, God told me this. And I heard God say this. And I'm thinking, why don't you talk to me? Like, why am I not hearing you, God? I'm thinking, am I supposed to hear this audible voice? What, why are you not talking to me? And I was in such desperation of where I was at, the struggles I was going through. And I remember I was in this little tiny bedroom. So, the trailers where you can open the front door and you can see the back door out the back door? Yeah. So the little side room I was in a bed, and my son was little at the time. He was sleeping with me. And I remember being on my face, on the floor, this little area that I had, just crying, like pouring out my heart. The next thing I know, I'm in this room with light, and it was so bright. It filled up the whole room, and I remember I was just wanted to touch it, could not touch it. I just wanted to grab it, and I couldn't grab it, but it enveloped me. So the next thing I know, I'm sitting up in the bed, and I realize it's daylight. And I'm like, how did I go from the floor to the bed, and how was it morning? I don't remember any of that. So I'm like, I'm not telling anybody. Like, I've lost my mind, right? And so I didn't. And then a few weeks later, I'm reading scripture, and I think it might be in 2 Timothy. It says, God wraps himself in unapproachable light. The moment I read that passage, the Spirit of God, I just sensed the presence hit me saying, not only do I speak to you, just hadn't learned yet what it means to listen, right? But I'm showing up. I am here.
Right.
So I knew in that moment that I had a visit from God, and obviously I couldn't touch him. And I tell God, I'm like, Lord, however long you let me live on this side of eternity, please never let that memory go out of my mind. And I wept. I wept in awe that he was letting me know that I do love you. You're not some washed out kid that I've forgotten about or that I'm angry with. I'm here.
It's amazing. Thank you for that.
And that's the power of the word, right? Like, had I not read that script, that was the word confirming the moment.
He does that. So you'll say, was this you? And he'll tell you.
That's right.
Stuff is so cool, guys. It's the coolest thing.
He is the coolest. I'm
God
like,
is so
all right,
cool.
Lord, bring it on. Look.
So the nagging tooth?
Yeah. So I had this tooth, right? No insurance, right? And it's like $1 million to go to a dentist. I had to drive, this was up Gainesville area, I had to drive to Shands because they could pull a tooth for like $75 or something back in the day. But you had to get there a certain time, you had to get on a list. So I would go, didn't have money to pay for parking, so I'd have to lug the stroller. Anybody that has kids, little kids, and have to lug all this like pack mule. Second time still, couldn't get on the list, missed it by just every time. And then angry both times because you're in pain. If you've ever had a bad tooth pain, you're angry, right? It hurts. Well, this last time I said, all right, this is the third time I'm going, Lord. I'm going to surrender to you. I'm not going to complain. I don't know why I wasn't getting on the list, why I have to keep going through this whole thing, parking, lugging my kid, why he's always asleep when we get there and I have to throw him over my, I'm having this whole conversation. But I'm like, I'm going to praise you anyway. Go there. I got up early, super early. I'm like, I'm going to get there before they open, right? I am getting on this list to get this tooth out of my head. And I walk in and all the little offices are still closed, but the main door's open. I go in, bring my kid in, of course, he's asleep again. You could see the little blinds behind the window at the office. And I saw him go up and the lady's like, we don't open for like a half hour. I'm like, I know. I said, this is my third time. I need to get on the list. And I'm like, you see me, I'm the first one here. I'm like, I got to get on this list. My tooth has got to come out. She's like, here. And she slipped it out. She's like, I'm going to close the thing back, but go ahead and put your name on it. So I got on the list and it was such a sigh of relief. I'm like, I'm going to get this tooth out of my head. And so I'm sitting there and he's asleep. It's getting close to everything starting to open up. And all I could hear all of a sudden was I could hear his heartbeat and I could hear his breath. And all of a sudden, people are coming through the corridor, coming through the main door to go to the different offices, different doctor's offices and stuff. And I started looking at people, all different scenarios, like hurry up carrying their kids. You see angry people, frustrated people, people that are in pain, all these different emotions. But every time I would look at a person and they would make eye contact with me, it's like they were transfigured. They were the most beautiful beings, they're humans, right, that I've ever seen in my life. Just everybody was so beautiful. And no matter what their demeanor was, when we would make eye contact, theirs would change into, they would smile, right? It would change, like they were being transfigured. And then all of a sudden, I hear my name called, and it's time to go back for my tooth, and I'm like, what in the heck was that? Like, why were these people so beautiful? And what was going on? What was this? I knew it was like a vision moment, but I couldn't figure out why or whatever. Then as I was praying to God and ministering he said, I let you see people how I see people.
What?
I will never, ever forget that. we act ways where we aren't so beautiful, right? And we can see the worst in people, right? If we choose to look that. But I'm like, please God, help me to always see people the way you see them.
You see 'em.
And that was a gift.
Yeah.
That was a gift because, and I don't know why he let me have it, but I tell him, please don't ever let me
Forget
lose
that.
that.
Yeah.
And then if we can impart this to everybody, so we start seeing each other the way you see us. Because half of the hate, half of the angst against others, half of the unforgiveness, half of the jealousy, the envy, the comparison. Like if we could just see each other the way he sees us, to be able to see the beauty in people, even when they're not so pretty.
All right, so last one, a healing.
Yes. So I'm praying and worshiping, and I get a vision of me being born. Jesus, like how a receiving person would grab the baby outright with the cord and all that, but it was Christ. And he's got me up in the air, and he's just laughing, like with joy, like, and it was one of the most beautiful moments, because while I was in my mother's womb, I thought I was going to be a boy. They had a boy's name picked out. I was supposed to be Alexander, to the point where my sister was like, put her back in. Can we put her back in and make her a boy? And I was pretty much rejected for not being a boy for a while. And even baby pictures, I'd be like, I look like a boy. They dress me like a boy or whatever.
Wow.
Even in the womb, we're hearing things where, you know, it's our brains are like little sponges. They're forming. And I just always strive to just, whatever I had to do to be loved, right? Just not be rejected. But that vision was later, much later in life, you know, not too long ago, to see that I chose you just the way you are. As a female, I chose you to be Sasha. And that he was like just so happy that I was born. And for God to give me that vision, right, was a healing moment to remind me, whoever is alive today, he wants you to experience love. When you do, then you can give it. I used to tell my kids, like if they got hurt by other people, I'm like, people that don't know God haven't really experienced what real love is yet. And you cannot give somebody something you don't have. You pray for them, and they will experience God's love, because any other facet of love, if it hasn't been experienced through God, like when we get a chance to watch people open presents, or we get a chance to give somebody something and we see the joy they get, it's in us already. It just, if you haven't decided to embrace God yet and to come to know him, you just don't even realize the power that's within you, because the power of his love is already a seed in there waiting to just be developed, and that grows when you surrender and decide to just, yes, let's do this, Lord, all the way.
Thank you very much, Sasha.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
See you next time on the battlefield.
He ran me over with his boat, and I landed on his propeller. This leg was back up this way in the water. They figured it did 3 revolutions. They could tell that from the cuts in my body, and it sucked everything out of me. I thought it had hit me in the guts, because I could see all this stuff streaming off of me. And I thought for sure, I'm dying. Everything just kind of went into a mist, and I could see an image over by this tree conveyed to me, very gentle, you're gonna be okay. I'm bleeding out on the ramp. And how this peace comes over me, I start to joke with my buddies, don't worry, I'm gonna be fine. I'm back on the water with my buddies drinking again. And so I decided to do a fisherman dive into the lake off the back of my buddy's boat. And I drove my head right into the bottom of the 7-foot deep water. I took a chip off the C2, broke my neck, and it healed. Another miraculous healing.
2 wake-up calls.
2 wake-up calls. And I'm starting to think to myself, I think I can control my drinking now. And I'm in this AA meeting at 5:30 in the morning. When I heard the name Jesus at the other end of the table, a fog comes over me. And I hear this voice. It was like a fire. It was gentle but firm. And he says to me, John, how many times are you gonna walk away from me? I started crying like a baby. I got up and out of there. I went into the bathroom. I wept my eyes out.